Well, hi again, this is Bob, and I started off with a little problem with the recording, but hopefully that's been taken care of now. We're beginning Chapter 7 with this lecture, and there's quite a bit of theory in this first lesson, but once we get through the lesson, we'll find that the same basic structure or formula will be used over and over again throughout the entire chapter. So, as always, hopefully you've read through the information at hand ahead of time. But what I'm going to try to do with the presentation here is work from the formula back to the theory and then from the theory to the formula. And as always, when we go through the book's example questions, in many cases that will help us fill in any gaps that there might be from the theory. And the whole idea of this is, if you recall from the first chapter or early on in our class, remember that a statistic is based on a sample pulled out from a population. And from that sample from the population, we try to make assumptions for what's called a parameter, which would be the true mean or the true standard deviation or any other number of statistical items or definitions. So the first thing that we're going to talk about in this 7.1 goes back to sampling. And it goes back to sample means, which of course we just saw quite a bit about with the central limit theorem in Chapter 6. And we also are going to go back to standard deviations. And in 7.1, they tell us we're going to set up a confidence interval and the standard deviation is known. In 7.2, we find out what we do when we don't know the population standard deviation. And you may recall from our central limit theorem when we're talking about sample means that we have a correction on that sample mean when we're one of the things we did in 6.3 was we had a new way of finding probabilities. Instead of pulling one person out from a population, we were able to pull out a sample of 10 or 15 or 20 or 100, and we made a correction on our Z formula. I'll just go back and review that again real quick. All this stuff will hopefully tie together. Okay, so there are some ideas that we've seen before, and the book does a good job of describing the whole idea that we're trying to present here. And it talks about, on the bottom of page 370, it talks about a college president, and the college president would like to know the average age of students attending classes this particular semester. Okay, so we will make the assumption that whoever, or either he or she or whomever did the research, did a